Hey guys, so today's video is all about love and all about weddings and all about saving and keeping more money in your pocket when it comes to your wedding. If you are a bride or groom to be, congratulations. This is such an exciting time in your life, but I'm sure you've probably already realized that it's also one of the most expensive times in your life. So in this video, I'm going to be going through some wedding tips that I would give to you as a newly-ish married person and things that we did in order to stick to our budget. Now, we got married back in the summer of 2019. It was an absolutely beautiful dream day, and thankfully we were able to achieve our dream wedding within our budget. And our budget that we had was less than £20,000. Keep in mind that in the UK, the average cost of a wedding is around £32,000, and that is for a 100 people wedding. And we decided that we wanted a 200 people wedding, but we quickly realized that we didn't have this average budget that maybe some other people have, and that we needed to keep those costs down because at the end of the day, once we were married, we wanted to walk away without any debt associated with our wedding. So this video will be a bit lengthier than my usual video, so much so that I've even got my cup of tea, which is steaming up in the camera. Sorry if you can see that. But it'll be slightly lengthier because I want to really cover some of the important tips that hopefully you can consider in terms of keeping the costs down. And I will also go through our budget in terms of percentages. So I will show you exactly how much we spent per category. But I promise if you're a bride to be or a groom to be, or you want to help somebody in terms of their wedding, then it will be worth the watch. So first, I'm going to take you through the percentages of my budget. So I'm going to show you exactly what we spent in specific areas. Now, actually, I do want to point out first that the reason why I think it's important to show percentages is because budgets can differ very much. So you may be working with a £5,000 budget, a £10,000, a £20,000, a £40,000, whatever it may be, they can vary widely. So what I think may be more helpful here is to show you the percentages of what we spent. And of course, this will vary by person as well, but it's just helpful really to get an idea of which categories seem to take up the most budget and which ones take up a bit less of your budget. So let's start with this top category. The most money of our wedding budget went to food by far. So 31% of our wedding budget went to food and 8% went to drinks. And that's all drinks, that's alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and keep in mind that we had an open bar. So nearly 40% of our budget went to food and drinks. Now, this is an area where I think it's very much dependent on who you are as a person. I would say the biggest two categories tend to be food and drinks or wedding venue tend to be the biggest costs. And for us, our food and drinks had overtaken the wedding venue budget. And that's because it was very, very, very important that we had good food on our wedding day. And to be honest, people raved about the food at our wedding. We put our money there. That's where we put our money. And so it was an important aspect for us for our day. So this may look high for you and may not be relevant, but this is just a rough idea for you to think, okay, well, food and drinks would take up maybe 20 to 30% of our budget. So the next category is wedding venue and church. So the wedding venue was where we held our reception and the church is where we actually got married. So the wedding venue was only 15% of our budget. So as I said, it's either the food or the wedding venue that tends to be the most of the budget. So we got married in a hotel which had a marquee attached to it. And so it was a dry hire venue. So that means that you bring in everything. So you bring in the food and the drinks. Luckily, they had tables and chairs, which was included in the package, which was helpful. But apart from that, you bring in everything. And that was what we wanted because we wanted to personalize our day as much as possible. So that was 15% of the budget. And then 4% of the budget was the church. This included the bands. So I guess this is just like an old tradition where they read it out to the town, the people in the church, so that they're aware of who's getting married. And so that included that fee. And it also included the wedding bells. So we had beautiful wedding bells ringing. And there was a few other bits like the registration. Yes, the the registration fee fell under this church fee. So there's quite a bit that falls underneath this. The next category is the wedding dress and groom suit and the bridal hair and makeup. So wedding dress and groom suit was obviously my dress, and that included accessories as well and shoes. And groom suit, so my husband's suit, he looked amazing, and that was only 9% of our budget, so just under 10%. And then bridal hair and makeup was 2%. So overall we spent 11% for our accessories and our attire and our hair and makeup. The next category is flowers and centerpieces and venue decor, which added up to 10% of our budget. So flowers, I very much wanted real flowers on our wedding day, and our florist over-delivered what I expected. So it was important for me to have flowers as centerpieces. So they weren't on all of the tables because we had 20 tables of 10. So they were on 10 tables, and on 10 tables there were candelabras, which is included in this venue decor budget price. And then obviously this also includes my bouquet, the bridesmaids' bouquets, and also the groomsmen's buttonholes. So I will say, I didn't say this at the beginning, but I will say that we had a bridal party of 24. So we had 12 bridesmaids and 12 groomsmen. I know that's absolutely insane, but it worked really well for us. So keep in mind that we had to buy 12 bouquets for the bridesmaids, and then we had the 12 buttonholes for the groomsmen, and also for the groom. So this was a pretty good amount, actually. 10% to spend on the decorations and centerpieces. I would say that was a fair amount to spend. Okay, so the next one is the photographer, and that was 6% of our budget. So I would say some people spend maybe up to 10% of your budget, but I don't think you should spend more than 10% of your budget on a photographer. Keep in mind as well that we didn't have a videographer, so this was just for photography. Okay, and then the next two categories are fireworks and DJ. So the fireworks was something that I really wanted, and I would say was a really nice to have. It was so much better than what we paid for, so it was just a great bonus to the night. So that was 4%, and then the DJ, which was 3%. We had an amazing DJ. We got a slight discount because it was my husband's friend, someone that he knows, but I would say this is kind of like an entertainment budget. So 4 plus 3 is 7%, but 7% was a good amount for us to get what we wanted and get a bit extra for our special day. So the next one is the bridesmaids' dresses and the bridesmaids and groomsmen gifts. So the bridesmaids' dresses we decided to pay for. It was something that I just wanted to do for my bridesmaids, especially because a lot of them were flying in from Florida in order to be at my wedding. And then 2% for the bridesmaids and the groomsmen gifts. Just a nice little touch on the day to give a thank you to your bridesmaids and groomsmen for all they've done. So that in total was 5% of the total budget. Next is the wedding cake, which was 2%. This was done by a family friend, so we only really paid for the ingredients. So we had a lot of cake because we had 200 people. So that's why that was 2% of the budget. And then the next one was invites. We spent 1% of our budget on invites. We done the save the dates online, which was cheap. And then the actual invites we done on Etsy again. Personally for me, I'm not huge into spending a bunch of money on invites. So 1% was more than enough. I would say that let what is important to you guide how you divvy up your budget. So if your wedding venue is the most important aspect of your day, then delegate more of your budget to that. If a DJ or a live band is the most important aspect of the day, then delegate more money to that. Also, it's definitely about give and take. So if you're trying to spend more money in one area of your wedding, be willing to spend a bit less in another area of your wedding. So in the same way that they say all you need to do is look at a person's budget to see what they value in their life, it's the same concept with a wedding. Really, where the most of your money goes is what is the most important to you. So now I'm going to go through some of the top tips of what we did in order to keep our wedding under £20,000 and how we were able to achieve this. So when I say set a clear strategy from the beginning, I mean know what it is that you want out of your wedding day, but also know your real budget. So what tends to happen is if you go on Pinterest first and you kind of develop your dream wedding in your head, it quickly dictates to you what your budget should be for your wedding, as opposed to you dictating what your budget is for the wedding. So the thing that we did was we sat down after we were engaged, maybe about a week after we were engaged, we sat down and we started going through our finances and figuring out how much money we'd be able to save over a set amount of time, which was a year for us. So we figured out, okay, we have a year and a couple of months in order to save. What can we save per month? And then what does that equivalent to at the end? So if you can save £1,000 per month and you have 12 months, then that means your budget is £12,000 for your wedding. However, if you can save £2,000 per month for 12 months, then your budget is £24,000. Also, of course, there may already be money that you have set aside for your wedding. There also may be people who want to gift you, so a parent may want to help with certain aspects of your wedding. So include that in your budget, but have a clear strategy from the beginning. You dictate how much you're going to spend on your wedding. Don't let your wedding dictate how much you should spend on your wedding. So for most brides and most grooms, the venue is important. You don't want somewhere where the toilets are weird or there's like a leaking roof. You just don't want somewhere that's just not nice to be. You want somewhere that's comfortable, that has an element of luxury, that gives you the freedom to just enjoy the wedding. And so a venue is important. However, by me saying think with your heart and your head, what I mean is don't choose a venue just because you like the way it looks. That is important, but it's also really important to be practical. Does the venue offer what it is that you need and your guests need? So if there are specific needs that your guests have, consider that when it comes to your wedding venue. If you are in a rural location, that's great, but is there accommodation nearby that your wedding guests can stay? So really think about the bigger picture, think with your heart and your head. Be practical in this process. As I mentioned before in the budget part of the video, we had a dry hire venue. So you can have a dry hire venue where you bring in everything yourself, or you can have a wet hire venue where the venue offers the caterers, the DJs, sometimes even the lighting and the decorations. So this really depends on what it is that you're looking for. So that's another aspect of being practical. Are you wanting to really personalize your day? And if you are wanting to personalize your day, as in bringing everything yourself, then know that you have to be very organized and be strategic in order to get everything to kind of come together on the day. So as I mentioned before, if there was one part of our wedding day that we weren't sacrificing on, it was the food. That was just so important for us. And so we wanted to have great food at our wedding, and we decided to go with a buffet approach as opposed to a silver service. So our caterers did offer both, but the buffet is generally significantly cheaper with most caterers. So we decided to go for the buffet. The service was done so professionally that I think it was even better than what would have happened if we had a silver service and people were being served at their tables. Also, when it comes to the food for your wedding, I would recommend doing a food tasting, which is what we did. And so it was really helpful for us to understand what the caterers were capable of. So we tried every aspect of what we were offering on the day. And the last thing I'll say about this subject is get the quotes per head as soon as possible. So when you're looking at different caterers, depending on what your budget is, some caterers may be too high per head. They may charge, I don't know, £100 per head. Some others may charge £50 per head. So use this to gauge which caterers are automatically crossed off your list and which caterers you can consider and then do the wedding tasting with. So we had an open bar on our wedding day, and we also had lots of drinks on the table throughout the dinner reception and the speeches, so that people just had drinks in front of them. But a way that we were able to have more than enough drinks for our wedding was by going to France. So we drove to France and we used Majestic Calais wine, and we bought all of our wine and some of our liquor, and it saved us so much money. So as an example, this wine displayed here is a wine that I really like, and we wanted it for our wedding day, but it was £7 per bottle in the UK, and we got it in France for maybe about €3 per bottle. So it saved us so much money by going to France. Now, not only do you save money by going to France to buy the drinks, they also pay for your Eurotunnel ticket. So as I said before, we used Majestic Calais wine and we put in the order before we even got to France, which made the process quite a bit easier. If you spend a certain amount, then they pay for your Eurotunnel ticket. So it was just a win-win. We got our drinks at a ridiculously reduced price, and we also had a day trip to France. So it was really just a perfect situation. So depending on the venue that you have, you may have corkage fees. So if you're bringing in your own drinks, your venue may charge you per bottle that you bring in. So a few of the venues that we visited at the beginning were charging £10 per bottle that we were going to bring in, which was just extortionate to us. It just was not an option. So luckily our venue had a 0 corkage fee, so we paid nothing to bring the drinks in, which just saved us a whole lot of money again. So keep that in mind. If you are doing dry hire, these are some of the things that you have to think about. Is there going to be a corkage fee? And if so, how much? Because you have to add that onto the price of each bottle. So say for instance, a bottle of wine is £7 and the corkage fee is £10. That's £17 essentially that you're paying for a bottle of wine. May not work out the cheapest. It may work out cheaper in that case to use the drinks provided by the venue. So ladies, I know how important it is for us to feel great on our wedding day. We want to feel amazing, we want to look amazing, we want a beautiful dress. I personally wanted a designer dress, specifically Pronovius. I already knew I wanted that, but I didn't want to spend the money that generally goes with Pronovius dresses. So the way that I worked around this was finding some boutiques who did sell Pronovius dresses, but at a discounted price. And the reason they were discounted was because they were last season's or the seasons before. But to be very honest with you, no one on your wedding day is going to know whether your wedding dress is this season's or last season's. It's irrelevant. So there are ways of getting your dream designer dress for cheaper. So you can go to a boutique, as I said. You can also go to the flagship store. So there's a Pronovius store in Bond Street, I think we went to, and they have some sample dresses which are slightly cheaper, but it means that it's not a brand new dress out the box. Other people would have tried it on, but if you don't mind that, then you're getting that designer dress for cheaper. And then of course you can get a designer secondhand wedding dress online. So there are some websites that offer these dresses, including Sell My Wedding, Bridal Reloved, and Still White. So these are some websites that you can consider. You can still get your dream dress just at a significantly cheaper price. So I've just had a bit of a slight outfit change because I want to show you what I mean by keep it creative. So for our wedding day, we wanted to have personalizations throughout, but not spend an arm and a leg. So there were just little things that we did, which we were able to do this for quite cheap. So one of the things that I did was I bought a very cheap fake leather jacket from Primark, and I ironed on the back, well, my bridesmaids on the morning of the wedding ironed on the back a decal. So let me show you what I mean. So it's probably backwards because the camera looks backwards. This was something that I wore outside at night when we went out for the firework display. I got so many comments on this jacket. People were like, that's so nice, what a good idea, such a nice touch. And honestly, altogether, this probably cost me about £15. So there's ways of getting creative without breaking the budget. Another thing that we did was we made our wedding favors. Now, wedding favors are a thing where I've gone to lots of weddings and I don't actually remember where most of the wedding favors have gone over the time. So I knew that I didn't want to spend much money on wedding favors. So what we did is we got these jars from eBay, Amazon, can't remember, but we got 200 of these glass jars and they weren't much money at all. And then we printed out names. We tied them onto these glass jars, and so each person had their name sat at their table. So this basically was their name card. Then we filled these jars with sweets, and then we stuck a sticker on the front, which unfortunately due to the camera is going to be quite hard to see, but it says S&D and it says our wedding date, and it's just blends in with the glass. So this cost us honestly maybe £300 in total for 200 favors, and we've been to lots of people's houses who still have these from the wedding, which is quite nice. So again, get creative, not necessarily spend a bunch of money. And lastly, we decided to not have a guest book on our wedding day. And guest books actually are quite expensive, a bit more expensive than I realized they would be. But we got a board and we got people to sign this on the wedding day, and it's now up in our living room in our house. It's really nice when we walk by it. Sometimes we just look at the messages that people left, and it's something that you look at a bit more than a guest book. In fact, a lot more than a guest book, but it cost us just the same, if not a bit less than what a guest book would. So there are lots of ways to get creative and put nice touches throughout your day, but without breaking the bank. So if there is a time in your life to ask somebody for help in some way, it's your wedding. It's absolutely acceptable to ask people for help. And if you don't want to ask people for help, people will probably offer help to you. And I would say, just let them help. Let them help in some way. So this is the time for you to call in favors. I'm sure you've probably helped people in the past with different aspects of their life. So let people help you in one of the biggest events in your life. So you may be able to call in favor with a photographer. You may have a friend who's a photographer who can help out. You may have a friend that's a florist and is willing to help with that. You may have someone who's a cake maker and they can make you a cake for cheap. Whatever it may be, call in favors and make use of them, because these things add up. We called in quite a few favors for our wedding. We were able to not rent a wedding car. We used a family's car. It worked out perfectly for our day, and it saved us about £400 or £500. So last but not least, I would say buy versus rent. So this isn't the case for everything in your wedding, but I would say there are certain things that you should consider buying versus renting. And for this, I would really say buy things that you know won't be too hard to sell afterwards. So one of the things that we bought for our wedding day instead of rented was our candelabras. So we have sold some since, we have given some to family and friends since, we have kept one for ourselves. And this can work out really well, because if it's the same price to buy versus rent, then it probably makes more sense to buy and sell on afterwards. Also for things like bridesmaids dresses or groomsmen suits, sometimes people rent these out. It may work out in your favor, but sometimes it just makes more sense to buy. So if you've made it all the way until the end of the video, because I know this is a long video, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. I really hope that there has been some helpful nuggets in here. If you have any additional tips or tricks or anything, please put them down below in the comments so that other brides and grooms can also benefit from your tips that you have and things that worked for you on your big day. If you haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I'm planning to do much more. I've really enjoyed doing this video. It's different to my normal debt, budgeting, investing type content, but it is about personal finance. And personal finance to me spans across a wide array of topics in your life. So if it's anything about saving more money, keeping more money in your pocket, then I'm probably going to talk about it. So definitely watch this space, because I'll be doing more videos like this in the future. But do let me know if you enjoyed it. And again, thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video really soon.